Joining me in studio right now is Mayor Richard Strick. Mayor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Monte, and good morning to all our listeners out there.
See, now you're doing good. You sound more awake than I do. That's awesome.
Well, I got halfway through my coffee so far.
Halfway through it. You'll have it probably finished by the time the interview's over, right?
Well, we'll hope so.
With your chug-a-lug coffee on the morning show, that's what keeps us going. Well, we have been covering a lot of ground here, which has been absolutely wonderful. But today, it's all about parks and recreation. So we'll give you the floor and let you kind of start out and build the premise this morning. Go ahead.
Oh, I appreciate it, Monte. One of the main things I want to draw our attention to, especially the last couple of years, we've come to appreciate the importance of the great outdoors and what it does for us, not only in terms of physical health, but mental health as well. And working with a great team in our Parks Department and our Superintendent Steve Yoder and the others that are working alongside of him to make sure that our parks stay up to date and forward looking. And so we're getting ready, moving ahead with a master plan this year and really trying to dig down into the history and the priorities for each park.
Okay, so and there are lots of parks to cover. So let's talk about some of them. I know you have some general parks and recreation plans, but there's a specific thing that's going on now that we want to touch on, and that is via way of an arboretum. And perhaps for the outdoor challenged, me, you could explain what an arboretum is and what it does, what it can do for the community.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've talked about here the last 2 years has been really helping each park take on kind of a theme or a mission in its focus and its emphasis. And with Evergreen Park, it's in the name. Out there we've had a softball field that's been underutilized for years, and we've made some investments in that over the last couple decades, but in the end, as we've seen shrinking numbers in our softball leagues, we want to consolidate and do softball better at the other fields that are already existing and in better shape. And so we have a large space out at Evergreen Park, and we've been thinking about what to do with that. And one of the things we've latched onto is to create an arboretum that shows all the different types of native species of trees that are available here in the state of Indiana historically. And so an arboretum is a collection of trees and trails so that folks can just enjoy closer proximity to the outdoors. And then as part of this as well, we might see a nice setup out there for weddings to take place and spotlighting and highlighting just some of the natural beauty that's part of the park system here in the city of Huntington.
Well, that is true because more and more weddings are going with a kind of a nature theme, or even whether it be held in refurbished barns, or people are really trying to get back to the simple. And it sounds like this arboretum is exactly what the public is calling for.
We think we're going to have a lot of support for it. We know that there's been a small dedicated team that's been working with DNR grants programs to begin with the initial planting, and then we recognize that there's a lot of benefits that cascade down from there. And a lot of folks use the trails that are out there. They use the disc golf course that's out there and take care of that very well. And we just want to make sure that we're making that available to folks for all sorts of different reasons. The beauty of something like that is it also functions in terms of a nature conservancy, and so that allows the schools to take elementary age kids or middle schoolers or high schoolers up there. We know with the biology department at the university, there's some good scholarship going on that helps us catalog the trees that are in our community, because again, there's a reason why certain trees grow better in this climate than others, and those are the ones we want to highlight and promote for folks.
Now, do you have an example of some of the things that they may see when they go out to that arboretum, some of the species of trees that they can look forward to?
Well, and if I was really good, I'd have that list on me in the moment, but I'm not that into the weeds on this project. I can tell you that it's all going to be native growth species for the state of Indiana. And so as you get into that, you find that there's a wide variety of trees that are historic to this area that we've often overlooked because we brought in something else that got in the way.
Man, that is something else, and I know that's something that my mother could probably speak to because she's really into the outdoors and the trees, flowers, and plants and that kind of thing. When is this expected to come online? I mean, or is it something that's in progress right now? Is there a particular start date for it?
Well, we're going to be working on the planting and transplanting here yet this year, but of course an arboretum, allowing those trees to grow up, this is a long-term project. I mean, the fullness and fruition of it is a goal that's probably 10, 15 years away from now, if not further.
Well, the nice thing about that, though, is that people will get to see this as it progresses, and it's something that's ever-changing, fluid, if you will, and that really is an exciting thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's one of those projects where you plant seeds today for the benefit down the road for future generations.
And you mentioned some of the other trails and walking trails, and I know that we've definitely taken advantage of those. And it's really something to have that kind of access around the community because it makes getting from point A to point B a little more enjoyable. You might not have to look out for as much traffic, per se, if you're taking a trail and it can get you from one place to another. An advantage there.
Yeah, and like we've talked about on the show previously, the goal is to just make sure that our community is safe and accessible for everyone. And so we shouldn't need a car to get across town safely. And so we're trying to get to that level of accessibility and mobility for folks.
Amen. They don't let me drive a car. I don't know what's behind that, but
I'm sure they just messed up the paperwork, Monty.
I think they did. I'll drive at night. Well, fantastic things that you have going on. Any other things to cover as far as parks and recreation go? I mean, I know things are ever changing. Are there any plans for parks where there may be a play area, say, for children who have physical challenges or things that are going on that could help them? Is any of that in the works or in the planning stages?
Absolutely. In fact, I want to draw listeners' attention to a great effort outside of city limits, but in Huntington County with the Drake Getz Memorial Park, and the design and intentionality that went into that park and making sure that it's a place that folks of all ages and abilities can enjoy is an example and a model for us here within the Parks program in the city as well. And Steve, as our park superintendent, is very focused on upgrading our playgrounds to make sure that they're accessible to anyone and everyone. And so that involves some new equipment features, that involves moving away from wood chip in those areas, and also making sure that whatever sidewalks are in place to access it are truly accessible to everyone. And so that takes some planning and prioritization on our part, but it's a commitment we're making.
Now, people that hear the show here this morning, Mayor, and may want to get involved in volunteering, or maybe they have an idea that someone might not have brought to the table, or maybe to say, when you mentioned the arboretum, why don't we do thus and so? Who can they contact, or how can they get involved?
Yeah, right now the best thing to be doing would be to contact our Parks Department, which is housed in City Services on Webster Street, and connect with Megan or Steve over there. Actually, we've got an opening for a volunteer coordinator. Our last two, we hired rock stars that got hired away for their dream jobs. And so we've got a gap there that we're looking to fill, because that volunteer coordinator helps people find ways to invest in this community and also produces savings for all of us as taxpayers within the community by taking care of some of the work that we would otherwise have to have on the plates of city employees.
I understand. And you mentioned grants, so there's probably a lot of money for developing and kind of refurbishing these community parks and getting them up and going. I would imagine that's something that has been a big plus for you guys.
Well, there are competitive grants, and we pursue those to the best of our ability, but we also recognize that a big part of what accomplishes the work in our parks comes from our tax base, and we do have a tax levy that every property owner within the city of Huntington contributes towards, and we use some of our seeded dollars, our income tax dollars, to support the parks as well. And part of the reason for that, parks, I mean, they are about connecting with nature, and they are about recreation and enjoyment with our friends. But there's also a more business-minded aspect to them, a very practical-minded aspect to them. When you look at the history of parks in the community of Huntington, you'll notice a couple common traits across most of them. One of which is they are wide, grassy areas that tend to collect lots of water. And so a lot of folks don't realize this, but the ponds at Memorial Park are actually a form of stormwater retention. It helps slow the flow of water through there so that things don't flood out in the neighborhoods around that area. The same with Hyers Park. Hyers Park is designed to collect a lot of water that comes in heavy rainfall events. And that's something that the forefathers and foremothers of our community had the vision to see and recognize, hey, that naturally happens there. We should make sure that it keeps happening there so we can develop around it and help protect our homes and our investments from floodwaters.
Man, so see, lots of advantages, not just for the enjoyment, relaxation, recreational things, but as you mentioned, the benefits to the community as far as water retention and that goes. So a lot of great reason to get involved and make sure we keep this project going.
That's right. It's becoming one of our favorite ones to talk about, and we're looking forward to seeing it get accomplished.
Well, I wish you guys all the best on that, and we're looking forward to seeing the Arboretum as it progresses and grows, and I think it's going to bring some really, really cool opportunities to the community, as you mentioned. So thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us for a little bit this morning.
Hey, thanks again for the opportunity, Monty, and I want to thank again our listeners for everything they're doing to make their world and their communities a better place, whether they're with us here in Huntington or they're listening across the airwaves and across the interwebs.
Well, we certainly do appreciate that, and we'll see you back here next Thursday morning. Is that correct?
Actually, I'm going to be out next Thursday. We're going to have in a guest. We're going to do a community spotlight. So, again, one of the things we want to keep reinforcing for folks is that Huntington isn't great because of its mayor. Huntington is great because of its people. And so we want to make sure that we're spotlighting and platforming folks that we think are doing a great job giving back to their community and leading and serving well in other roles.
Now, is it too early to spill the guest tea or let us know who might be coming in, or will we find that out a little later on?
Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to have Eric Bruce in with us. And Eric Bruce is a great model citizen who's been engaged in helping, serving, and leading through the Boy Scouts, through his workplace, and then also with local community groups like HARDO, which is our Huntington Area Recreational Trails Association. That's the group that really helps drive the bus and raise funds for our trails here in the community alongside of the property taxes we talked about earlier.
Okay, well, we're definitely looking forward to that. And again, thank you for stopping by this morning.
Thank you, Monty. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, you do the same, sir, as we get back into the More Music Morning Show, the TCB Games Morning Show.